What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be going over how to use your defensive cooldowns correctly in Mythic Plus. As you get higher and higher in key levels, defensives are incredibly important. There are a lot of specific mobs or bosses that have abilities that will do a lot of damage and can one-shot if you aren't prepared for it. So, looking at our talents here, we have Dark Pact, Demon Skin, and Mortal Coil. These are kind of like our three defensive abilities. As I've said in many of my videos, I'm always taking Dark Pact. It's about a 40k shield. And I'm always taking Mortal Coil. It's a good interrupt, and it also heals a little bit more than a health pot. Heals about 11,000 or so for me, and a health pot is 10,000. So, on top of that, we have health stones, which heal 25% of our health. And we also just get 10% more health just for being a warlock. And then we have our big defensive cooldown on any resolve on 3 minutes, which is a 40% DR, right? So how you're playing this in Mythic Plus is you want to understand what abilities are dangerous and be prepared for them. So an example here would be the Executioner mini boss. He always does a charge at someone after he's done casting his fear. And this bleed does a ton of damage. So how I always prepare for it is we stack up for the fear. Once the fear is done, he'll target someone. If it's me that's targeted, I just back out from the group, Dark Pact, Coil, and then I'm good. The bleed should not kill me, and the healer should have an easy time healing up whatever damage is dealt. Another situation would be in the other side here. These enraged masks of the enraged spirits. Every time they cast rage, if you've done the dungeon, you know that it hits incredibly hard. So you can always pre-Dark Pact as soon as you see the masks come out, and pretty much mitigate all of the damage that it does to you. And it'll be very easy for your healer to keep you high on health because you'll be absorbing the majority of it. And then there are situations where sometimes on a boss, let's go to Plaguefall for example, on Globberog. So he does a stomp pretty often on this fight. And the first stomp is really early, probably like 15-20 seconds into the fight. So you can pretty much use your Dark Pact 5 or so seconds into the fight just to prepare for the stomp, right? And it lasts for 20 seconds, and it's on a 1-minute cooldown. And the cooldown starts as soon as you pop it. So you can pretty much have it on a 40-second cooldown if you use it enough time before the damage happens. So pop it right before he stomps. You get healed up, and then you want to cycle through. So your next ability that you'd use would be on a resolve. So for the second stomp, you pop it, good to go, right? And then on your third cycle, if there's a third stomp, then you'll have your Dark Pact up again with your Mortal Coil to kind of top you off. And then, if things get rough at the end, then you have Health Stone and Health Pot, right? And Drain Life if you need to. But in general, it's kind of a priority list. And so, if I am not preparing for a big AoE ability like a Stomp or whatever, I'll just use my Coil first, right? And then if I know I'm going to be taking damage, I'll pop my Dark Pact. Right, and then once you have these two on cooldown, then it kind of matters what type of damage I'm going to be taking. Do I need the Unending Resolve damage reduction? Or is it going to be damage that can just be healed up by a Health Stone, right? So if it's just like a ticking dot, once you get to 40-50% HP, just pop your Health Stone, right? And if it's still ticking you down, then you have a health pot. But if it's a scenario where you really need a cooldown, then it's better to just have Dark Pact, and your coil, since they're on 45-second CDs and 1-minute CDs. And then we can also turn to our tree here, and Nia has her own 1-minute kind of cheat death-ish thing when you're below 50% health. Dreamweaver has like a little bit of a shield or a little bit of a regen here when you're below 80%. And then you also have Pod, and so Pod can be really useful on weeks that is like this week, which is bursting. You know, sometimes if your group AoEs too much and get to 8 to 10 stacks, you end up dying, but you don't actually die. You can just get potted and heal back to full, and then be good. And it counts as a cheat death, right? So we have a lot of defensive tools that we can use on top of our endurance conduits and such. But also we can turn to our gear, right? So if we have domination sockets, we can use a shard of gear here, which ends up being a pretty significant absorb throughout the dungeon. It heals about the same, if not more, than a stone ward would, which is one of the anima powers that you get that gives you a shield for 20% of your maximum health. So this is a really, really key part of when you're pushing high keys. Like, this absorb can help a lot. On top of that, we have endurance conduits like condensed anima spear. That's really strong to heal with, right? And so you just have so much passive healing and passive shielding to kind of keep yourself alive. And this becomes more and more important as you get higher on into keys, knowing how to rotate through your defensive cooldowns. Because if you are, you know, kind of just panic, press everything at once, and overlap it all, then if something else happens and you need a cooldown, then you're just kind of dead, right? And you obviously don't want to die in a key because it slows things down, makes pulls sloppy, bosses harder, etc., right? So you just want to be prepared. So that requires you knowing a lot about the dungeon in general and know which abilities are difficult and which may one-shot you or be really dangerous, such as, like I said, the rage ability or the bleed from the executioner. So just kind of knowing the dungeon, knowing what abilities are out there to kill you and potentially one-shot you, and then preparing for them. When you use your defensive cooldowns, you want to be proactive. When you're using them, you don't want to kind of just use them as panic buttons. You want to have a rotation of defensive cooldowns and know which situations you're going to be using either your healing defensive cooldowns, so your health stones, your health pots, your coils, or if it's times where you need shielding or, you know, damage reduction. So hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit, and I'll see you in the next one.